The Moore School Board met at Central Mid High School Monday night. Members of Citizens for a Fair School Board packed the school auditorium. They're unhappy because the board fired 6 administrators for allegedly turning in false expense reports. The board has hired outside lawyers to sue the 6, and the Citizens for a Fair School Board says they've had enough.
We strongly urge that for the best interest of the children and parents of our schools and all taxpayers in our district and within the state of Oklahoma, that each board member forthwith submit her or his resignation.
Then civilly took the board petition signed by 2,736 more residents calling for the board members to resign. Earlier Monday, the board's attorneys got a temporary restraining order preventing the citizens group from auditing the school board's books.
By taking court action against the Citizens for a Fair School Board, you are in fact suing the citizens and taxpayers of Moore. As a patron of Moore school system, I find this appalling.
Despite the criticism, the school board members say they won't resign. And when it's all over, they expect to be vindicated. Bill Ross, Action 4 in Moore.
Fledgling flyers at OU have been able to get off the ground for 3 years now. Each semester, some 200 students get exposed to flying through the university's flight department. Some students take flying courses as electives. Others pursue aviation degrees. But the program has a problem. The university recently sold off its aging fleet of training planes and leased 7 new, more expensive planes. That change is drowning the department in red ink.
We're projecting to be in debt to the tune of about $140,000. And the greater part of that debt is due to a lease that we have with Piper Aircraft for 3 airplanes. If we did not have the lease, our airplanes would be able to support themselves, and we'd be about $30,000 in the black.
The university aviation department would like to wiggle out of the last 3 years of its lease, perhaps by purchasing some planes from Piper instead of just leasing them. That way, the university could recoup part of its loss by selling the planes after they were paid for. But so far, no such solution is in sight, and a university committee has been appointed to study how to handle the money-losing department. One suggested alternative would be to eliminate the university's aviation program.
There's one final irony here. The university plans to install a control tower here at Westheimer Field. That control tower should be operational at the beginning of next month. Unfortunately, the university may no longer have an aviation program. Scott Wallace, Action 4 in Norman.
Number 2 Chief Executive, Lieutenant Governor Spencer Bernard, offered to show the federal government's top disaster specialists the worst of the flood damage. As Regional Director of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, Jerry Stevens will report to the President on what he saw. The worst of the damage was in Caddo County. Angry creeks there spilled out of their banks during May's rains. The wall of water wiped out some 35 county bridges near Hinton. The price tag to repair Caddo County roads and bridges is close to $1.5 million. Damage to homes and crops across western Oklahoma pushes the disaster estimate to more than $23 million. If the President declares the region a federal disaster area, then western Oklahomans will be eligible for low-interest loans, and the federal government will pay 3/4 of the cost of road and bridge repair. The state and counties would split the remaining cost. Stevens will brief the President on his findings soon. State officials hope to start receiving federal help within 30 days. Scott Wallace, Action 4 near Hinton.
Fire units arrived at 944 Southwest 28th shortly before 2 a.m. to find a garage apartment completely engulfed in flames. The residents, Christine Dobbs and her 8-year-old son Christopher, escaped the burning home without injury. They were awakened by the sound of popping glass, windows of the home bursting from the heat.
The west side of the house was completely involved in flame when we arrived at the scene. We were lucky we didn't get another house or two on fire. It was that well involved.
Any idea on a damage estimate?
No, I don't even know that right now. We had pretty extensively damaged. Looks like the fire started downstairs.
Fire investigators are still searching for a possible cause of the blaze. Debbie Mash, Action 4 in South Oklahoma City.
Strawberry daiquiri and lime daiquiri. 2 strawberry margaritas and a lime daiquiri.
Serving liquor by the drink in Oklahoma City has its best chance of becoming legal ever. Chamber of Commerce officials are now writing a petition that will give the option of just letting people in Oklahoma City vote on the issue. The Tulsa Chamber is doing the same thing in Tulsa. Officials say the wording of the petition in the past has hurt liquor by the drink. Club and restaurant operators are excited about the Chamber's petition drive.
Well, I think it's a real good move because what a lot of people don't realize is that laws like serving minors and licensing clubs effectively cannot be enforced while the ABC board is attempting to enforce the liquor by the drink laws because they don't have the manpower to enforce all these laws simultaneously.
We have a lot of people coming into our cities and so forth and so on from other states that have liquor by the drink, and they're kind of hit with a shock to this liquor by the drink thing, and it kind of throws them off. It kind of gives them an uneasy feeling.
Chamber officials are still working out the details on how the petition drive will be funded. They hope to bring the question to a vote of the people by late summer or early fall. Oklahoma is still the only state that does not have some form of legalized liquor by the drink, and some would say it's a definite sign of being behind the times. Ed Stewart, Action 4 in Northwest Oklahoma City.
Two-year-old Diamond Miller and his family had just recently moved into the Rio Motel on Northwest 39th Street. Around 10 o'clock this morning, Diamond and his 4-year-old brother apparently wandered out of their motel room while their mother was asleep. When Diamond's mother noticed the boys were missing, she ran outside. She spotted the older boy, but Diamond was missing. Jackie Sapelli joined in the search.
She was yelling at me, to find her kid. And he was just floating over there in the pool, and so I just took him out.
Neighbors began artificial resuscitation until the fire department and AmCare arrived. The 2-year-old boy was taken to Children's Hospital. He is in very critical condition. The pool had not been used since a fire gutted the adjacent apartment. Residents report that the management of the motel was waiting for the rains to stop before they drained it. But this was not the first time a child had fallen in. A resident told me her 2-year-old had fallen in last summer and was pulled out without injury. Easy access to the pool is not the only danger facing residents here at the Rio. Next to the pool, a sudden drop-off down to the creek. The owner of the motel was not available for comment. Brian Sweet, Action 4.
Members of the Salvation Army Senior Citizen Band would get together and play their hearts out. Little did they know that a researcher from the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. would find their music so authentic they would be invited to display their talents to the nation.
Last call for passengers holding boarding cards on flight 396.
It's a big break for these Native Americans. The big trip to Washington has been anxiously awaited for months, and they were so happy to be going.
Feel great. I feel like a new man, but I'm pretty old, 75 years old, and I'm glad that I'm going to Washington.
I feel like we're going to go do our best. We're very honored to be going. And we have been practicing a lot. Who knows? Willie Nelson made it big.
I'm just real honored to go. Never dreamed in my life that I would go to Washington, but here I am going.
The festival participants are the first to leave of a total of 110 people. Oklahoma will be the featured state at the festival since it's our Diamond Jubilee year, celebrating 75 years of statehood. To get to go was not easy. Researchers from the Smithsonian interviewed hundreds of people, but these people passed the test with flying colors, and for the next few days, they'll be flying high with all the colorful excitement of being the star attraction in Washington. Bella Shaw, Action 4 at Will Rogers World Airport.
This is a ranger aide, someone to handle the paperwork at ranger stations. The aides are an important part of the ranger operation because without them, the rangers would have to fill out forms and answer telephones instead of patrol. There are only 23 rangers to keep an eye on boats at the 3 city lakes. Those are the same officials that must also patrol parks. Not enough people is hurting the patrol efforts.
The criminal element tend to plan their crimes, and it's just a matter of watching where the ranger personnel and the police personnel are at any given time. And as soon as they leave the area, that's when the crime's going to be committed.
Despite increased vandalism at boat docks, some boat owners feel the rangers are doing the best they can.
It's a pretty good job to patrol, I say patrol, I mean the whole area, you know, like these guys do. But as far as I know, this is the first time in my 2 years down here that I've had any problems or anybody's had any problems now that I've heard about.
By adding more ranger aides, that'll free up more rangers to do a little bit more patrolling. Then hopefully when boat owners come out to take a ride in their boat, they won't be greeted by some unpleasant surprises. Ed Stewart, Action 4 at Lake Hefner.
In its heyday, Gulfstream American employed as many as 1,200 skilled workers at its Bethany plant, constructing twin-engine Commander jet prop aircraft. But a recent slowdown in the aviation industry has forced the company to scale down by as much as 1/3, laying off more than 300 employees. Gulfstream makes 4 different models of the luxury business planes, each costing between $1 and $2 million. Company officials say the 310 workers released became expendable when production was reduced. And according to a company spokesman, they don't know how many will ever return.
How permanent will it be? That all depends on the condition of the marketplace worldwide for Commander aircraft. Gulfstream American is the last of the major aircraft manufacturers to be affected by the recession in aviation. Beech, Cessna, Piper, our competitors largely in Wichita, Kansas, have been affected by layoffs for the past year to a year and a half, and in some cases are totally shut down for the past 6 months.
Gulfstream will continue to deliver planes constructed prior to the slowdown, but for all practical purposes, the plant will be shut down until August 16th. When work does resume, production will drop from 8 to 10 planes a month to a maximum of 5. And unless there is a dramatic increase in demand for the business planes, it appears the layoff could be a lengthy one. Kurt Autry, Action 4, Bethany.
Today's search for 10-year-old Douglas Dixon started early this morning with mounted patrols scouring the area near the park where he disappeared. All day long, police heard from concerned people, many of whom were sure they had seen Douglas, and police made door-to-door searches in the area where Douglas was supposed to have been seen. But tonight, police say they have no evidence any of the sightings were actually Douglas, and right now they have no leads on where the boy might be or what has happened to him.
He's just disappeared. We have no evidence, like I've earlier stated in this case, and we're not going to change our policy on it until new evidence comes in. There's no evidence of foul play as yet. There's no evidence of him having a history of being a runaway. As far as we know right now, it's just a case of a missing juvenile, and we're going to have to carry it as such until new evidence comes in to change that.
Police say they won't extend the physical area of their search anymore at this point, but when the search resumes in the morning, they will try to make contact with friends of Douglas's to see if they have any more leads. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4 at Memorial Park.
A new jail will be put to a vote next Tuesday in Cleveland County. Enormous growth and tougher state standards have forced county officials to find alternate housing for prisoners. Effective October 1st, the Cleveland County Jail will not meet state jail standards. The new law requires the prison population to be under 24. And according to county officials, 40 to 60 prisoners are in the lockup at any given time. But overcrowding isn't the only problem. Under Sheriff Neil Grover says the simple fact that the building is almost 50 years old is another consideration.
Of course, the plumbing is real old, and the way the arrangement of the jail has so many prisoners in there, and they're not segregated, and we have a lot of fights in there, and people get hurt pretty bad in there, some of them.
Cleveland County residents will vote on a $2.9 million bond for 8 years. The total projected cost for the new jail is about $4.3 million. In 1938, Norman was a rural farm community, and this building was more than adequate to house as many prisoners as the sheriff could catch. But now Cleveland County has more than 135,000 residents. And according to sheriff's officials, this building is about as up to date as a horse and buggy. Kurt Autry, Action 4, Norman.
This empty field adjacent to South Oklahoma City Junior College has become a haven for a bunch of hams. Local ham radio operators established radio stations as part of their annual field day. The term ham is an old railroad telegrapher's term for a new or bad operator. From those lowly origins, the phrase ham radio operator has become one of respect because of the way hams help out in time of crisis.
When severe weather does occur, however, we go out in mobile and with portable handheld units to various locations around Oklahoma City and through the state, observing the weather, reporting in directly to the Weather Bureau at Will Rogers Airport, and providing the weather people with on-the-spot accurate weather observations.
Kilowatt 5, Echo Alpha.
Kilowatt 5, Echo Alpha, 2 Alpha, North Carolina.
QSL, you are 2 Alpha, Oklahoma.
After their stations are up, the hams begin contacting as many stations as possible. The field day goes on for 27 hours. It's expected that some of these hams will contact more than 1,000 other amateur radio operators during that time. And they won't be just talking to other Oklahoma operators. Contacts are expected in all 50 states and several foreign countries. These people don't receive any prizes for making the most contacts, but these practice sessions help them prepare for those special occasions when they're really needed. Bill Ross, Action 4, near South Oklahoma City Junior College.
Alpha, India Delta.
You've probably never heard of Wildman's 8th Edition in northwest Oklahoma City, a small community of 96 homes located next to Belle Isle Lake. The neighborhood is concerned it may soon be boxed in by dozens of office buildings, apartment complexes, stores, and hotels. Construction is already on the horizon, and more is being proposed by a developer. In all, 91 acres around the old OG&E power plant will be used for commercial use. Residents say the proposed development is so big it could turn the addition into another downtown.
Specifically, we were concerned with the intensity of the development. It's a very dense type of development that would call for a lot of construction of tall buildings initially as proposed by the developer. We agree that they have a right to develop the land as much as they can, as much as they want to, but they still need to do it in a realistic manner so that they don't have a negative impact on our property values.
More businesses would mean more traffic, and although roads would be upgraded to handle the load, it's feared the residential atmosphere would be destroyed. Wildman 8th Edition homeowners and developers are sure they can reach a middle point where industry and residents can both live together. Ed Stewart, Action 4 in Northwest Oklahoma City.
The record-breaking $87 million budget was approved unanimously by the school board. The budget figure represents a 16% increase over last year. School Superintendent Dr. Tom Payzant attributes the rosy picture to an excellent state aid package passed by the legislature this year. Topping off the package, 100 new classroom teachers will be added, particularly in the areas of special, bilingual, and physical education. Food services get $76,000 to prevent further increases in the cost of school lunches. The board also approved a $3 million building budget. It will be used to maintain the district's 100 buildings, like the Star Elementary School. Today, workers could be seen sandblasting the building. They were laying gas and water lines. $167,000 will be spent here to rebuild the cafeteria and kitchen area, destroyed when a hot water heater exploded, killing 7 people. There is still a little debris left from what happened last January, but soon all of this will be gone as workmen continue reconstructing the school. The cafeteria won't be quite ready when the students come back, and so hot lunches will be prepared at a neighboring school and brought over. And finally, in another budget item, School Superintendent Payzant gets a 10% raise. His salary will increase from $60,000 to $66,000. All of this should mean a big boost for Oklahoma City schools. Bella Shaw, Action 4.
And gentlemen, permit me to introduce to you a Congress of the Rough Riders of the world.
Before the turn of the
Buffalo Bill, he never missed and never will. Always cleans and shoots to kill, and the company pays his Buffalo Bill.
When Buffalo Bill was
The article's in this month's issue of the Reader's Digest. It contains startling stories of children just disappearing, never to be seen again. One of the children listed is a little Oklahoma girl, 6-year-old Sabrina Drake. She's been missing since August of 1980. But she's just one of many possible victims of child stealing in the state of Oklahoma. Right now, Oklahoma City police are searching for 10-year-old Doug Dixon. He disappeared last Tuesday after playing in a neighborhood park. Officers have combed the area on foot as well as by air, but there's still no clue to his whereabouts. Another sad story is that of Cinda Pallett and Charlotte Kinsey. The two 13-year-old girls disappeared here at the state fair last September. Their parents continue to search, refusing to give up hope. But what about the police? When do they give up?
We are still investigating upwards of a half a dozen leads a week on that case. Though it's 9 months old, we're still very actively pursuing the case. As a matter of fact, I'm waiting for a man right now to talk to on that case.
Reader's Digest and Sergeant Pennington agree wholeheartedly on one point. Child stealing is not a new problem. It's simply more publicized now, which can be good and bad. Sherry Sellers, Action 4.
The murder investigation of Mr. and Mrs. Cyril Orbach continues to move along at a snail's pace, although police do say they have at least one substantial lead. Investigators believe the assailant left the Orbach home in the victim's car, a navy blue Toyota station wagon. That vehicle was found abandoned last night in the Penn Square Mall parking lot. Today, the City Technical Investigation Unit canvassed the Orbach home and interviewed as many as 100 neighbors. And although the physical evidence is mounting, police say they are no closer in establishing a motive.
The house, as you can see, is for sale. It could have been anyone that happened to stop by to look at the house. It could have been one of the doors that were left open and somebody just walked in. We found a couple of doors open in the residence when we got here. That is unlocked. So it's no. Just because there's no forced entry doesn't mean that it was someone I knew at all.
Orbach founded the S.C. Orbach Company in 1933 with his wife and son. A store spokesman said Orbach had recently retired and was planning to move to Arkansas. He is survived by his only child, Robert. Kurt Autry, Action 4, Northwest Oklahoma City.